Hello, and welcome to the Venue Coach Blueprint for Owners. I'm Kyle Labar. This podcast is all about helping you fill your wedding venue with more bookings, earn more from each one, and keep your customers happy for a long time. We'll also talk about some tough times and big lessons that I've learned along the way. Let's dive in together and make your venue the best spot for weddings. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Venue Coach. This is Kyle Labar. Today we're going to talk about the different costs associated with buying a wedding venue and the things that you need to keep in mind when you're planning and preparing, making your business plan, so that way you can have a proper expectation of what it's going to cost you every month and how you're going to mitigate that and overcome it and become profitable with your bookings. So for the costs, the big thing first that we're going to look at is just the cost of the venue itself. So when you're buying, it's let's just use an arbitrary $2 million. Not uncommon for you to get a venue in that range. Of course, they range full spectrum of, half a million, which in our area is surprising, up to 5+ million. Usually is we're interested in sticking around, and so we actually got ours close to that 2 million mark, and so let's just use that as an arbitrary number. So if you're looking at 2 million, banks are going to want to see an LTV, which is loan to value, and they want to see at least 20% coming in with cash equity. And so you're going to need to fund that either with, if you own the land, if you own the property already, and in this example, it's not for a build, it's for a purchase. So let's say you're actually looking to buy from somebody else. Let's just keep that simple. And okay, so you're looking to buy somewhere else and you want 2 million. And now the bank wants to see 400,000 at least. Now that's a minimum, but really they'd be more comfortable if you were putting up 600,000. 30% is way more comfortable for banks, but you can find lenders and at 20%. It's just a little bit more difficult, and you're gonna have to just get more attention outside and just be reaching out to lots of different banks. Usually it's going to be national lenders instead of local players. And so we went with an SBA route. I mentioned on the last episode that usually conventional lenders, they want to see 2 years full of tax returns, which if you're getting into this, you're just not going to have, and that's okay. So you'll be talking primarily with SBA lenders, and they will like to see typically 20, like I said, 20 to 30%. So just plan on 30. It makes it safer, makes your payments better, all of that. So you're going to put up 600,000 and you're going to finance 1.4. And so right now, key note is that SBA loans are variable interest rates. So it's the prime plus whatever the SBA lender has as their whatever. And so you look up the prime rate, that's what the federal government's charging banks, or I can't remember the term, but it's right around there. And then they add an additional, usually it's 2.5, 2 to 3% is typical. If you're very well accredited or a connected person, then they might bring that down into the ones. But you could just plan on 2.5 to 3% would keep you safe. And so right now, that's right around like 10.75%, and those go out for 25 years. So you got 1.4, 10.75% for 25 years. That's a monthly payment of 13,469. So 13,500 just on the payment of the loan. Then you also have your property tax. You have your insurance, which comes out, and the insurance, you should talk with your insurance agency. It really depends on where you're located and everything like that, but typically that's going to cost you right around $500 to $1,500 per month, sort of thing. And really, in any investment that you're planning, the best rule of thumb is to round up on your expenses, round down on your on your income, and if it still works on that, then you're going to be fine. And so we'll just round that up. Let's just say $2,000 a month for your insurance, your utilities, likely another $1,000 a month. You have maintenance, which depending on the age of the building could be high or low. You could say that's another $500 a month. What else do we have? You have your property tax, which for this type of property, depending on where you're located in the country, it could be $2,000 a month. And so these are all just hard costs that are going to be the same no matter what. And then if you have staffing, you might have staff that comes in just for events. So room flippers, that's what we have. Room flippers, cleaners, and then staff to work the events. You might have bartenders, that sort of thing. And so you're going to have to pay them. Do you have a manager in place? And if you don't, starting out, totally get it. We didn't have a manager when we started out. But your goal is to work to that point so you don't have to be tied to the venue. You don't have to go do every single tour. You don't have to show up to all the events if you don't want to. And so that could be a goal that you work towards, but you should price in a something for the staff if you're able to do that. And we can talk in another episode a good compensation structure for managers that we found that works really well, but that's a topic for another episode. So now you have all of these costs, and you might find that given these costs, it to run and operate just the fixed costs of the venue, it might cost you $20,000 to $25,000 a month at this price point. And so if that's the case, then you need to figure out how many bookings do I need to break even and then make money. And so in this example, if let's say you picked $5,000 as your price point, well, at 25, you're going to need 5 to break even. That's just to break even. That's you're basically working for nothing. And so from there, 5 a month is 60 a year, which is right in line with pretty much every area's average. Average is typically like the ratio. So from how many weddings in your area to how many venues that exist, that ratio is pretty consistent across the board from what I've seen in various areas, and it's right around 55 to 65 events if you average it out among all venues in that area. And so the great thing is 60's right in there, and that's just if you're average. And so then the other thing you need to think about is marketing. How are you going to get your name out? This is a brand new venue, right? And so you need to get the word out. If you're taking over another venue that was doing great, then you can inherit a lot of that. You still need to keep marketing going, paying for ads, paying for Google ads and Facebook ads. But if it's a brand new one, so like ours wasn't brand new, but it wasn't as popular. And so we had to do a lot of work on the front end to get that more visible. So you have marketing expenses. And then in terms of the price, this is where the price matters. And so a lot of people want to look at what their competitors are doing. But I can tell you how many times I've looked at what our competitors are doing, and that was once when we got started because we didn't really know any better. And so really what you want to do when you're getting going, your first objective is to fill the calendar. You want to fill the calendar. So if you may understand that, hey, at 5,000 I can get 5 and break even, but at 4,000, if I know that I can, if like this is the one time where what the competitors are doing matters, because if you can come in just a little bit less, offer more value, and you can just fill your calendar quickly, because you don't have the benefit of the bookings. You haven't received any deposits. You don't have any payments coming in. So you have time working against you because this loan is going to start eating you alive unless you get bookings. And so it usually, if you're starting from scratch, if you have very few that you're taking over, it usually takes about a year or 9 months to 15 months to where you start actually cash flowing. And so that's if you do a good strategy, you get good pricing going in off the get, off the very beginning, and then you're just focusing on filling the calendar. Just get them booked, book them, book them, book them, book them, book them. And then as you're going, then you start raising your rates. And so the thing that you need to think about is, what is this costing me every single month? And when you get a booking, you're not getting that full amount. So let's say it is $5,000. You might get $2,500 up front. I know some venue owners who collect everything within 60 days. I know many that don't collect the full amount until sometimes a month before the event. Not recommended. We do 90 days before the event. That gives room for payments. And the thing is, you can set the rules, and so it just falls whatever you're comfortable with. But most of the time, the venues you do not collect the full amount immediately. And so that's something that you need to consider. Now, I do like the model, and I actually learned this from one of my clients because I like their model, that they get half of it up front and then 45 days later the rest of it's due. And so if you could do that, then you have the cash a lot faster, which is great. If you're wanting to be a bit more flexible on payments, you can still do that. You make the rules. This is your business. So if you want to give case by case special payment plans for people, then do it. The thing is that you have to remember is cash is king. Cash flow. That's what you care about. So the amount of dollars that you're expecting to come in the future is great, but guess what? It doesn't pay the bills until you got the cash in hand. So remember that when you're getting started, you want the cash in hand. So if you got to lower the price to get them to pay in full, do it. You want to start building up the revenue. Once you're cash flowing, then we can start raising the rates. Let's get the prices higher. Let's do that. The other thing that you can do to help on the back end is start bringing in secondary offerings, other revenue streams that are going to enhance that cash position that you're going to get on the back end. Maybe you're a caterer and you can offer catering. Maybe you're a photographer and you can do that. Or an event coordinator and you're really good at already putting that together. Maybe you're like me and you didn't know any of those things or have any of those skills or knowledge, and you got to figure out what sort of things you can bring in to enhance it. And that's also why I'm here, to give you a lot of those tips and tricks and to help you along your way so that you can avoid the headaches and trying to figure it out on your own. You don't need to figure it out on your own. I've already figured out a lot of it. I don't have every single answer, but I've figured out a lot, and we're making it work. And so, but to start off, it really is just figuring out your baseline. What do I need to not die every month? What do I need to keep from going bankrupt and actually be in a thriving business? And so if you keep in mind all of those different expenses, so again, that's your loan cost, utilities, property tax, insurance, staffing, marketing, maintenance, supplies, those sorts of things, they all stack up. And so you keep that in mind, round them all up. Round up to your nearest $500 on those and add them all up, and then that's the amount that you need to shoot for. And once you have that, now you look at your cash. How's my cash doing? Am I bringing in cash every month that hits that? And so when you're talking with your lender, you want to build in, if you have no bookings that you're taking over, especially, you need to build in operating capital because it's going to take some time. Then you start building the calendar up, start filling out your bookings, and then build up your payment basis, all of that. And once you get a good churn going of payments coming in, new bookings, all of that, and then filling the events eventually, then you're starting to get into a really good cash position. So if you have questions about this, feel free, drop a comment, let me know. I'm happy to go more in depth, but I didn't want to get too into the weeds on anything. But these are some good high-level tips for you as you're starting your journey. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.